Good evening. I'd like to call the Whatcom County Council meeting for May 17, 2016 to order. May we please have the roll call?
Barbara Brenner.
Here.
Red Brown.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Todd Donovan.
Here.
Ken Mann. Satpal Sidhu.
Here.
Carl Weimer.
Here. Okay, would you all please rise and join me in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a couple of housekeeping announcements. Please either turn your cell phone off or put it on to vibrate. And if you'll be handing out any paperwork tonight to us up here on the dais, please make sure a copy gets to our clerk as well. We have 5 sets of minutes to review tonight. We have number 1 is regular county council for April 5th, special committee of the whole in the morning for April 19th, special committee of the whole in the afternoon for April 19th, regular county council for April 19th, and regular county council for May 3rd.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Mann out of the room. Okay, we'll move into our public hearings. We have 2 this evening. Audience members who have signed up at the back of the room prior to the beginning of the meeting will be considered first and asked to form a line as I call your name, please. Each speaker should state his or her name for the record and will be given 3 minutes to address the council. Council staff will be keeping track of the time, and they will give you a 30-second warning, and then we'll say time when the 3 minutes is up. So our first public hearing is Whatcom County Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 3, Housing. And we have some folks signed up. Linda Twitchell, Tim Douglas, and Ann Russell are the first 3.
Linda Twitchell with the Building Industry Association. The housing chapter addresses the fact that the cost of housing is a serious problem in Whatcom County. It addresses the fact that we need flexibility and that we need a variety in our housing forms. I wish I could convince you guys to vote to expand the Bellingham UGA to help deal with these problems. But regarding the housing chapter itself, I think we're pointed in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Tim Douglas, Ann Russell, and then Matt Petrini.
Tim Douglas, and I'm really here tonight to speak real quickly on the economic development portion of the plan. So if that's not appropriate right now, then I will wait until it is.
Yeah, this is housing.
Yep, I heard that, so I'll wait. Okay, and come back up.
So Ann Russell, then Matt Petrini, and then Roger Almskar.
Ann Russell, Bellingham. I'm speaking as a citizen tonight at this point. In 2006, I bought my home in partnership with Colston Community Land Trust. And if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be here right now today talking to you. It helped me create a sense of ownership in my community, stability in my housing, as I watched my friends have to leave town and my neighbors facing bankruptcy over unaffordable housing. And now my home will forever be affordable to another nonprofit worker like myself, or a teacher, or a local worker at the wages that they make here in Bellingham. We have a serious housing affordability challenge, and we have yet to make a countywide comprehensive effort to address that. And that needs to be addressed in this chapter. And this issue will shape what we look like for the next 20 years and beyond, what our community will consist of, who will be able to afford to live here and who won't. Right now, 3 out of 5 homes are not affordable to the people who currently live in them in Whatcom County. We have a gap, we have a mismatch of our wages and our housing prices, and we need to seriously consider how we're going to fill that and who we want to be able to live here. This mismatch can't be fixed by zoning. It can't be fixed by supply alone. It's really an issue that needs leadership It's not a land supply issue. It's not a housing supply issue. It's a social justice issue. And that's the way we need to approach this. The solutions to this housing mismatch, this wage and housing price gap, the solutions to this can generate economic development. They can generate jobs. They can generate construction jobs. So I just wanted to urge you to think about these things. Think about what we want Whatcom County to look like in 20 years, who we want to have to be allowed to live here. Do we want housing that's affordable for local workers, or do we want unaffordable housing where people like myself have to leave to go live somewhere else? So I think that the county can lead on this. I think that the county can work to support affordable housing within existing UGAs. I think you can lead on policies and provide funding to cities to showcase permanently affordable projects like those that Cultion CLT does in urban areas, close to jobs, affordable at the wages of those jobs. So as a Cultion Community Land Trust homeowner, I urge you to look at
30
Chapter
seconds,
3 again
please.
with that in mind. Thank you.
Okay. So Matt Petrini, then Roger Almskar.
Hi, my name is Matt Petrini. I'm the Clean Energy Program Manager at Resources for Sustainable Communities. I'm speaking briefly to the need to create affordable housing. This is something that we believe in and agree with. The question that's really before you is how to go about it and how to think about this problem. The first thing to understand, we think, is that housing is always subsidized in one way or another. We're either subsidizing it through the public services that we provide, we're subsidizing it at the expense of other priorities like water quality, quality of life, critical areas protection, or we're subsidizing it intentionally, meaning that we know that affordable housing is something important for us to do, and we're putting investments into creating affordable housing for our community. So if we're doing it intentionally, we have a lot more control over what the cost is to our community and who's paying for it, which is a really important value for us. We can think about it proactively. We can think about how we want to fund it. We can think about what kind of investments are necessary, and we can make sure that we're meeting the need and that the investments that we're making are actually effective. So I encourage us to think about doing it that way, primarily because it's a lot more control and a lot more leadership and a lot more proactive solution for how to actually deliver on affordable housing. What isn't the solution is a supply-based approach that doesn't have evidence to show that it's actually effective and can be evaluated, that as we expand supply, prices go down. We've never really seen that, and it's talked about a lot. It's hoped for every time a community agrees to allow development in its watersheds or critical areas that they're going to see a decline in housing prices, but it doesn't actually work when we see it happen in the real world, which is why I'm encouraging a solution that's proactive, that's based on public investment. There's some ideas for this in the original staff draft of the Comprehensive Plan Housing chapter that were removed by the Planning Commission. I hope you'll consider adding those back in. One is to consider inclusionary zoning or an offset fund for developers who don't wish to do inclusionary zoning. This ensures a mix of incomes in every development, which is a lot more productive way to go about it. The other option is a home fund, similar to what we've done here in Bellingham, or a community land trust program, similar to what's been working with the Cultion Community Land Trust really well that Ann just spoke to. The other thing that we could pursue that I think is really important is energy efficiency improvements, because a large part of housing costs are associated with people's utilities.
30 seconds, please.
And that's something that can reduce the cost for homeowners and for renters in a way that also has a net gain on our environment and a net gain in terms of our economic development while creating jobs here locally. So I hope this is something that you'll look at really closely. Don't rely just exclusively on a supply-based solution, because it just has not really worked. So thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for having this public hearing. Have a good night.
Thanks. Roger Almskar, that's the last person on the list, so if anybody else would like to speak, come on down and get in line behind the podiums.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I live in a different world than some of the other speakers, because where I live, and I've been for over 70 years, the law of supply and demand does work. I don't understand how it doesn't work. Also, it's strange to me that someone says we need to decide who will be allowed to live here. That's an alien idea to me, folks, so excuse me. Those aren't my prepared remarks. I'm a member of the Building Industry Association and the local chapter of the Citizens Alliance for Property Rights. I've been involved in planning and land use since 1971, and back in the 70s and 80s, there was not much concern about property rights protecting them. There weren't so many regulations as there are now. But now we do have an over-regulation issue, and that's really causing most of our housing issue. My exhibits there, the first one is about personal income of Whatcom County. You may have seen this before. It was in the Herald a few months ago. We're number 30 in the state in growth of personal income. So we're down there with Whatcom County and some other little places where there's hardly anything going on. So I'm trying to show you that there is a problem. And the other side of the coin, besides income and jobs, is our housing costs. This was recently sent to me. It's from a website called Stately, a national source. Shows that based on fairly recent information, the cost of housing to own a home in Bellingham is the highest in the state of Washington compared to all the other cities of our size or bigger, or even some smaller. So please take a look at that. We had at the BIA, we had a meeting with 3 council members last Thursday. It was a very productive and cordial meeting. I'm glad those who came did. And I mentioned a letter there from the Swanson Belcher Law Firm. It's in front of you right now. And Mr. Swanson, this was delivered to the City Council a few months ago. And the bottom line is Jack Swanson is saying that to talk about existing deficiencies in our urban growth areas, perhaps South U Street or South Kaitak, to ask new developers on new projects to pay for those existing deficiencies is not legal, and also to require developers to buy transferable development rights from some other part of the county or even next door.
30
That's not
seconds,
legal
please.
either. So thank you. I also attached a piece that I had in the Bellingham Business Pulse a few months ago called Bookends, Police Power and Property Rights. And I hope you'll take this home and read it later. I think you'll find it interesting. So I guess I'm out of time. And remember that when I handed you the pamphlet a few weeks ago and the Attorney General's memorandum, please take a look at what's said in there about nexus and rough proportionality. I see in my work those principles being violated quite often. Thank you.
Patrick Alessi, 4825 Alderson Road, Birch Bay. I love the young lady who said, in 20 years ago, I came to this group and I said to you, oh, you weren't here, but this is what I said.
I was here.
Okay. Well, relic, never mind.
Look who's talking. I know, I have to be quiet.
We fight, but we're friends, and I love the scale. I said, look, we need to pay attention to what it costs to deliver services out in the rural areas, because the costs are actually higher and they don't get as good a service. Matt was over here saying, housing is always subsidized. Okay, well, we're subsidizing the rural areas. It costs us, and they're not happy with us either. You ask them, listen, can you increase your taxes for better services? Usually they say no. The weird place that says yes is Bellingham. They must be weird here. Oh, Bellingham, where the cost of housing is high, but the delivery of services is efficient. You have good fire protection, good medical protection with ambulances, good police protection. Yes, it costs money. Yes, we need to figure out how to make it comfortable for people. Oh, they seem to riding their bicycles and paddling their boats and hiking around. They're having a good time. The cost of this going to drain you and drain all of us is the cost of servicing the rural areas. Long time ago, oh, yes, it's a 5-acre lot. I got to give a lot to my son. I called it a gift that keeps on giving. Finally, I decided, the county's playing dummy darts. We're going to put somebody here, somebody here, somebody here, somebody here, and then we run around trying to say, oh, we live out in the county, we live near close to nature. The trouble is, we're also destroying it. Good luck. I'll be back.
Bring chocolate.
Chris Halterman, Whatcom County. With regards to the housing, I would ask that this council be sure to be definitive and define the difference as you write up your comp plan between affordable housing and subsidized housing. They are not the same animal. When people are asking for affordable housing, they're not asking for a handout. They're not asking for anything other than helping to make sure that there's a supply and a regulation that people with the economy in Whatcom County can find affordable to actually create home. Right now, we've got the city of Bellingham doing a lot of tax exemptions on all these multifamily homes. We're doing a lot of tax shifting to all of the other people who are actually paying the freight. I take disagreement with anybody saying that my housing is subsidized. I pay all of my property taxes, I pay all of my utilities, I pay all of my costs to purchase it, keep it up and maintained, and at a good quality standard so that it's livable for us and we are taking good stewardship of our property. So I do not find that people, I couldn't afford to even buy my own home right now because of the costs. Whatcom County has gone from 7th or 12th of all 39 counties. We're down in the low 30s. We're declining on the ability for people to actually afford homes here. And it is a responsibility that we make sure that we keep the cost affordable. One of those ways is I've read inside of, now we're talking about housing, but throughout the entire comp plan, we're talking about transfer of development rights, purchase of development rights, open spaces, highly encouraging open spaces. All those are tax shifts. The bill is the bill. We all still have to pay it. It doesn't matter what you do to shift it around. And then you wonder why people say, well, affordable housing is not affordable in Whatcom County. It's your responsibility to understand that shifting those taxes onto somebody else creates a further burden and makes it less and less likely that you're going to have people affordable to be able to buy the houses and live here in Whatcom County. 75% of the people want single-family housing. 75%. That's not addressed in the comp plan. And that's something that you guys need to be aware of and be accountable to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Bill Angel. I'm a Bellingham resident. Work for Whatcom County at the Health Department, but I'm here just as a citizen. And
Get a little closer to the mic.
Bill Angel, Bellingham. I guess I'm here just to talk about housing and climate issues. Just I guess want you to appreciate that every portion of this comp plan has some opportunity to address climate mitigation and adaptation, and encourage you to look for visioning statements that allow future expansion of an approach towards mitigation of climate issues in these sections of the comp plan. I guess with regard to housing, encourage that rules and regulations for building include potentially some forward-thinking items like solar on projects, more energy efficiencies, conservation measures for energy. Rules and regulations of that sort will create a level playing field, and all the builders will have to build to that standard. Help supplement our energy from the coal that we still use, and help the green energy portfolio of our energy suppliers. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Robin Dexter, 3726 Broad Street in Bellingham. I really didn't come prepared to speak on this issue tonight, but listening to Chris Halterman, I wanted to add something.
she's correct when she talks about shifting costs and what taxes do, but she only presents to you half the issue. The economist Gretchen Daly is very fond of the statement that our economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of our environment. And we also have to recognize cost and tax shifting when we allow housing where it's inappropriate and we disturb the natural services upon which we all depend. That's what the comp plan is about. So you get a very incomplete picture from people that benefit economically from using up resources upon which we all depend. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the only second meeting I've been to. I'm a business member in Birch Bay, involved in housing, transient accommodations. I guess I'm really concerned.
We can't hear you.
Oh,
Sorry.
I guess I'm really concerned that there's a housing crisis going on here, and that it be addressed responsibly. Specifically, I'm concerned about Birch Bay and the lack of attention that has had in Birch Bay with regard to housing. I'm kind of wondering where the money's going. As of 3 days ago, I talked to the Army Corps of Engineers regarding the response on the Birch Bay berm project and the storm damage that was related, which impacts the housing and the traffic there. They'd only received one response out of mailings to 3 counties in a project that's 90% complete. I prepared an email to every engineer in Whatcom County, and within 2 business days, things started happening. The impact of the how housing is going to be affected in Birch Bay, and everything to do with the stormwater improvements and the berm. I'm very much concerned about how that's going to be appropriately addressed, because, that's a small road. There's lots of traffic on that road. It's not being handled responsibly. I came down to the point where it said, someone's going to be hurt or killed on that Birch Bay Drive if people don't move that debris. And it's taken 5 weeks to get a permit from the last storm. And this is all very concerning about what I'm seeing down there on Birch Bay in terms of it being handled and addressed responsibly. And I think there's probably going to be some litigation involved, because I find it shocking that out of mailings to 3 counties, according to the Army Corps of Engineers, that only one comment has been made with regard to, that was as of 3 days ago.
30 seconds, please.
I'm sorry? Oh, sure. That only one comment was made regarding that berm project and the impact, how that's going to affect housing and the housing related to the wildlife and the environment. And I don't know how much money's been spent, but there's going to be a lot of implications to Birch Bay. The money's not being directed to Birch Bay, in my opinion. I've observed it for 14 years. I really just want to see things handled responsibly and fairly and equitably, and not see people lying on the streets. I've witnessed women urinating on the shoreline because of a lack of outhouses. I've reported that to law enforcement. It's just gotten out of control. And there's campsites out there where homeless people live in the summer that come from the city. So I'll leave it at that. It's that bad. David Bernstein.
Hi, Sandy Robson, Birch Bay. I just wanted to respond to or point out something after hearing a couple of the commenters who already spoke on this issue. tonight. In terms of the statistic cited in the report that Mr. Almsgar and I believe Ms. Halterman referenced a few minutes ago, that has Whatcom County ranked 30th out of 39 counties in Washington State for an increase in personal income, per capita personal income. There's an important point that's missing. Actually, the chart from the report they're referencing shows that Whatcom County's ranking for per capita personal income in 2014 was 16th out of 39 counties in Washington State. So that can explain why our county is presently ranked 30th out of 39 counties when specifically referring to the statistic when looking at the increase in personal income, per capita personal income, referenced by both Mr. Almsgar and I believe also by Ms. Halterman. And that's just something to keep in mind. So having referenced the increase per capita income statistic ranking for Whatcom reminds me that statistics can sometimes be used in a manner to present a particular position. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the Whatcom County Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 3, Housing?
Wendy Harris. I'd like to talk about something that I haven't heard addressed yet, which is the right to be free from nuisance. And I'm going to ask the county to consider adopting some language in the comp plan and an ordinance that incorporates just our basic principles of nuisance law. It seems like some people in the county seem to have taken property rights to such an extreme. They're engaged in revisionist history where they believe they have an absolute right to do whatever they want with their property and they don't care how it impacts other people. And unfortunately, it's impacting me and it's impacting my health. In particular, I'm concerned about air quality. You have people that are living close together, even though it's the county. I live in a community that could just as easily have been built in Bellingham. People don't have 5 acres or more, and yet, people want to burn things, and, we have the Clean Air Act, which was delegated to the state, which they delegated to these regional air quality commissions. But the county retains the jurisdiction to regulate above those standards if it wishes. And I'd like you to consider having a ban on recreational burning, particularly in areas where, people tend to be closer together, not far out. We ask people to sign things like the Right to Farm Act to protect farmers. That also protects people. And frankly, I wish that I had been presented that. I learned this week that I am living down the road, like within a quarter mile of cows. And there are 3 cow manure lagoons down my road. I was told by my doctors not to be close to farming because of the negative impacts to my health. I saw a few goats. I had no idea that there were that many cows and horses and sheep in my neighborhood. And in the winter, they were, things are treed and they're in the barn. And it was this week I drove by and saw one of my neighbors has at least a dozen cows. So, those 2 things, I would like to make sure everyone has a right to know what's going on in the neighborhood they move into. And by keeping farm plans secret, that's one way that I'm prevented from getting that information. I would like to make sure that the Right to Farm Act is given to everyone because it protects the farmer and new residents. But in particular, I would like to see a policy addressing nuisance so that people are aware they can't use their property in a way that harms people or property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to Chapter 3, Housing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll move into our next public hearing, which is Whatcom County Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 11, Environment. And we have some folks signed up. We'll start with Dina Jensen, Pam Borso, and Judith Atkins.
Dina Jensen, Birch Bay. I want to again thank the County Council for all their efforts in reviewing our county's 20-year plan, and to also acknowledge that this meeting is being held on land that is the traditional territory of the Lummi and Nooksack peoples. May we nurture our relationship with our Coast Salish neighbors and the shared responsibilities to their homelands where we all reside today. I'm sure other people have remarked on this before, but I was thinking about how the environmental chapter of our comprehensive plan should be the foundation chapter, the one that all the other chapters emanate from. Based on this idea, I decided to just check on the order of the chapters for the comprehensive plan, and of course discovered environment is the very last chapter. In general, the order of the chapters was interesting to me, and for those who may be watching this meeting at home or may not know this already, the order goes: 1, introduction; 2, land use; 3, housing; 4, capital facilities; 5, utilities; 6, transportation; 7, economics; 8, resource lands; 9, recreation; 10, design; 11, environment. It seems obvious to me that without a thriving environment, which contains the critical features that are the source of human life, all the other elements, as much as we may put effort into setting up good systems and fixing problems within them, are in a forward-looking sense doomed. The first part of the paragraph of the purpose section for the environmental chapter states, Whatcom County's natural environment, with its abundant supplies of water, its beauty, and its other natural resources, has attracted people to our community for generations. This setting is important to our spirit, to our health, to our economic well-being, and to our future. Yet sustaining these assets in the face of increasingly intense human activity has become more difficult over the years. So I'm asking members of the County Council to, at least in their considerations, put the environment up to the top of the list when working on all the other aspects of planning for our future in Whatcom County. I also wanted to state that I support Councilmember Mann's introduced policy that opposes fracking, Policy 11H6, and for the sake of all the living organisms that provide for healthy human existence, please revise and strengthen Policy 11I12 to develop and implement comprehensive stormwater management programs and strategies designed to reduce and eliminate
30 seconds,
runoff
please.
from all private and public developments and facilities within regulated and sensitive watersheds, prioritizing stormwater polluting areas and planning for retrofits within areas that are most likely to impact sensitive waters. I encourage the Council to pursue Councilmember Donovan's introduced policy regarding in-stream flows in a way that effectively ensures that the county works with the Department of Ecology to enforce the in-stream flow rule, Policy 11J3.
Time.
Additionally, please restore the original staff recommendation for Policy 11J3 to develop and implement an action plan with the Department of Ecology to record water usage of all water users by 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Borso, Judith Atkins, and Christine Hansen.
Good evening. My name is Pam Borso. I live in Custer, and I'm here to talk mostly about water tonight in Chapter 11. The first aspect is on flooding. The floodwaters of the Nooksack River can damage homes and agricultural areas, businesses and industries. And so I feel that this should be inserted. And I've also emailed these comments so you don't have to take real good notes, but a comprehensive approach to flood hazard management planning provides for a better understanding of the river and floodplain system, ensures the flooding and channel morphology problems are not just simply transferred to another area within the basin, but are addressed in a comprehensive basin-wide manner. Bank protection projects offer only minimal protection and often have severe adverse impacts. The only sure way to protect property and public safety is to strongly discourage new development in a river migration zone. We know our Nooksack River is a river that migrates. I would encourage the county to lead the way in creating land and water management plans supported by accurate and relevant data to ensure oversight of water quantity and quality issues. I would encourage you to adopt and implement a plan that reverses the degradation of our waters by 2025 by putting a date on it maybe there'll be some action done, but we know we have a lot of problems with fecal coliform and nitrates in the water. I do also want to echo that I support resources comments on the Lake Whatcom watershed, which I'm not going to address here tonight. In policy 11M10, page 1138, it reads, encourage landowners to protect surface water quality with filter strips or other appropriate water cleansing mechanisms installed between lawns, landscaping, livestock pens, or agricultural fields and water bodies. I would encourage you to replace encourage with require. Require landowners to protect water. I would encourage you to manage water resources for multiple in-stream and out-of-stream beneficial uses, including meeting in-stream flow rules set by the State Department of Ecology, and to develop and implement an action plan with an aggressive timeline to institute
30
countywide
seconds, please.
water metering of all water users. This would be adding policy 11J4, because the lack of quantification of our agricultural use of water is a major barrier to water rights negotiations. I want to thank you very much for the good work that you've done so far. I think the comprehensive plan is coming along really well, and I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Judith Atkins, Christine Hansen, and Carly Dethridge.
Hi. Tonight I'm here, Judith Akins. I'm here to, again, thank you, like Pam just said, for all your hard work. And I'm going to talk about water and ask you to protect and restore our most valuable resource, our water. Our lives depend on it, the salmon, and our agriculture and our food depend on this. Specifically, we need to have clean water to drink for the fish to thrive and for our agriculture to flourish. I was thinking about this tonight. I was thinking of putting a glass of water out here and saying I'm already filtering my water, and thinking down the road 10 to 20 years from now, I don't want to just be able to put a plastic water bottle that we had to buy in the store. I want better water than we have today. I want the bay to be clean out here. I want the animals to thrive in our environment. I don't want our dirty water that we have in our polluted bay. So anything that you can put in the comprehensive plan to make our water better is what I'm asking you to do. I've been hearing about, people lighting their water on fire when it comes out because of fracking. We don't need that. We don't need to add to our problems. And additionally, I'm asking you to add policy to develop and implement an action plan to institute county-wide water quantification. We must quantify all water use, including agriculture. The inability of the county to quantify water has been a major barrier to water rights negotiations. We have to get this done. I mean, it's been taking years and years and years. So please look at the plan as a way forward. Thank you.
Christine Hansen, Carly Dethridge, and Bob Seaman.
Let's see if this is in the right place. Hi, my name is Christine Hansen. I've lived in the state of Washington all my life, and my husband and I have lived in the King Mountain neighborhood of Bellingham for nearly 10 years. I will be commenting about clean water resources. I want to make sure that the County Council includes policies in the comprehensive plan that ensure there will be enough clean water for fish, farms, and people well into the future. Number one, please do not permit any fracking. This process wastes a lot of good water, and it contaminates groundwater. Also, we certainly don't need to bring on earthquakes in this part of the country. Councilmember Ken Mann has introduced policy 11H6, which opposes fracking. Thank you for doing this. I strongly support this policy. Number two, please save our salmon. Salmon are in limited supply. This is because we have pollutants in our waterways, as well as Puget Sound, and we have low river levels in the summer. I'd like the county to lead the charge in finding ways to recover our salmon populations in the Nooksack River. A new policy, number 11M15, should be added. It states, quote, lead a local coordinated effort using best available science to identify what is needed to achieve a harvestable surplus of wild salmon in WRIA1. Third, keep our rivers flowing. The State Department of Ecology has an in-stream flow rule for the Nooksack River. This rule states how much water should be in the river at all times for fish, wildlife, scenic beauty, recreation, and navigation before out-of-stream uses are allowed, such as irrigation for farms, residential water, etc. At the present time, Ecology doesn't enforce the Nooksack in-stream flow rule. Councilmember Todd Donovan introduced a policy, 11J3, that directs the county to work with the Department of Ecology to enforce the rule. Thank you, Councilmember Donovan, for doing this. I also strongly support this policy. Thank you for your ongoing efforts, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my concerns with you.
Thank you. Carly, and then Bob Seaman, and then Brian Carey.
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, council members. Carly Detheridge, Bellingham resident and clean water organizer with Resources for Sustainable Communities. Whatcom County has the opportunity to be a leader when it comes to managing our water resources, and this comprehensive plan update under Chapter 11, Environment. Thankfully, we live on the west side of the Cascade Mountains where rain and snowpack are in greater supply, for now at least. Time is quickly running out to proactively plan and manage our water resources. Last year during the drought, we saw our snowpack at the lowest it's been in over 30 years, as well as low in-stream flows and high temperatures in those streams and tributaries. This led to the die-off of large populations of salmon around the state and rainbow trout here at the Whatcom Falls Fish Hatchery. Private wells also went dry. In my previous job, I worked for Congresswoman Susan Del Bene and her government office and received a number of calls from constituents in Whatcom County, namely the South Fork Valley, about their wells going dry and seeking assistance. This is only going to get worse if we don't proactively work with the state to address these problems. Resources sent a few letters on Chapter 11, Environment, calling for policy additions and revisions to improve water quality and quantity, to create a system of tracking and identifying wetlands, and to prohibit or limit shoreline armoring. I hope you reference our letters and strongly consider making those changes to the comp plan. If I had to pick one change above all, I encourage you to add a policy under Goal 11J to work with the Department of Ecology and other agencies to develop and implement a plan to quantify water use throughout Whatcom County. Concrete data on water usage would give you and other decision makers better clarity on facilitating the management of water resources for all current and future water users, whether they be residential, agricultural, commercial, or industrial. In 1999, the county adopted the Comprehensive Water Resource Plan, which stated on page 6 under Program Elements, the mandatory water quantity element should consist of an assessment of water usage and availability and a planned strategy. Measuring or quantifying water use is not a new idea.
Please.
Additionally, quantifying water use will put the county in a better position when the Bureau of Indian Affairs makes their senior water rights determination for the Lummi Nation and Nooksack Indian Tribe. Please add a policy to develop a plan to quantify or measure water use countywide under this chapter of the comprehensive plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bob, and then Brian Carey, and then Bob Agater.
Hello, council members. My name is Bob Seaman. Thank you for your time. I'm here as a volunteer from the 10 Mile Clean Water Project. We meet on the guide at Bellwood Acres, the second Wednesday of every month. For 2.5 years, we've been pulling samples in the 10 Mile Creek watershed for fecal coliform, and we've seen a steady decline, relatively speaking, with the numbers. We've seen positive results there. We're doing a number of outreach issues. We've had guest speakers at Bellwood Acres. We've had a lot of help from folks. And tonight I'm here to talk about water quality. 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of working with Crush, the poo-sniffing wonder dog. If you folks heard anything about her, it was quite an event. She got a workout, tested 140 samples, and there was quite a number of positive hits. In 10 Mile, 3 out of 5 of our samples tested positive, and that was down in the Deer Creek development area and in the lower part of 10 Mile as well. Interesting development. I was talking, Fred and Lynn Lively like to visit with us when we come out and do samples at Deer Creek Drive, and they're just on the south side there. They were surprised. They told me they had nitrate levels at 15 parts per million in that area, which I wasn't familiar. Had a nitrate problem, and I suggested, you might contact Board of Health or health folks, and she had, and they were surprised as well. So that's a new development that we have in that area, and we'll have to monitor it. I believe we've got a number of failing septics in that stream system. The reason I say that is because we had positive hits in the development areas, and the areas that were east of the guide meridian, we had negative results on it for human septic. So we've got some challenges. I just came from the Ferndale Weeku. We had a septic workshop there. At the time, there were 40 people. 2 weeks ago, we had, I think, 56 people in. We're getting real good turnout for the people learning how to do self-inspections on the tanks. Sadly, some of the re-inspections, they're finding they're failing. I know James Hayes was saying that he picked out 50 forms that had been filled out, and he went out to double check them, and 12 out of the 50 were failing, even though the resident, the homeowner said that they were okay. So we've got challenges in that area as well.
30 seconds, please.
We've had issues, as you know, with fecal coliform in the past, maybe 15 years ago. We addressed it. We got on board. Sadly, we got complacent, and the problems are back again. And we just need to stay vigilant with regards to water quality in Whatcom County, and just keep moving forward for our future generations. One thing I'd like to request is whatever outreach help we can get. One thing interesting, when I was at the Ferndale Weeku, I asked how many people are aware of fecal coliform issues in Whatcom County before you got the notice, and out of 40 people, I got 5 hands raised.
Time.
So we need to get the word out to folks. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Brian Carey, Bob Aggerter, and Blanche Bybee.
Brian Carey, North 34th Street. I'm a senior in Western Washington University's Huxley College of the Environment Environmental Policy Program. I'm speaking tonight in support of protecting Whatcom County's water resources from overuse and pollution. Lake Whatcom provides drinking water for 100,000 people, nearly half of the residents in Whatcom County. While the county already manages more than 3/4 of the watershed, we are still one of the only watersheds in the country to have urban development within it. Future development could further compromise an already questionable water quality. I ask the council to consider policy to restrict further development or UGA expansion in Lake Whatcom watershed. I also ask for consideration in strengthening policy 11K-2 in order to support funding plans made during the 2008 Lake Whatcom Comprehensive Stormwater Plan. Having enough water in our rivers and streams means nothing if it's too polluted for wildlife or human consumption. Stormwater, domestic, and agriculture runoff contribute significantly to the degradation of water quality in Whatcom County. Changing policy 11I-12's language from addressing runoff to reduce or eliminate runoff will reaffirm the county's goals of protecting stream and river quality. Combined with prioritization of sensitive water areas for stormwater retrofits, Whatcom County's water resources will be better protected and more resilient to runoff events. Another lapse in Whatcom County's planning is the fact that we really don't know how much water is being used. The City of Bellingham, PUD, and other public water providers have meters. However, we only have estimates of how much water is used in the county by agriculture and private wells. Considering the trends of drier summers with less snowmelt and increases in agricultural water demand, the measurement of water will soon be crucial to our county. The measurement of water is about showing people how much water they use and offering suggestions on the best way to conserve, not to try to tax them more and to charge them. That is why I asked the council to add a new policy under the water conservation section of this chapter that states, develop and implement a plan to record all water usage by 2025. Water is very important to Whatcom County, its wildlife, its people. Proactive rules for the safe use of water and resources will create a county that can maintain prolonged sustainable use. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Agater, Blanche Bybee, and then Ann Russell.
I think she left. Oh, no, there she is.
Chair, members of the council, Bob Agater, Lake Whatcom Watershed. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for the effort that you're making in bringing up to date our comprehensive plan. I want to address three issues that I'd like to have you change, amendments that you'd make to the current draft of Section 11, and they're outlined in the materials that I've handed to you. And I will not read the letter or the specific requirements. Some of this has been offered by previous speakers. Number one is the issue of polluted runoff. I'd like to see you strengthen and revise policy 11I-12, and particularly adding a new topic under policy 7, prioritize stormwater pollution areas and plan for retrofits with areas that are most likely to impact sensitive waters. The second one is to support salmon recovery. We have a crisis right now with salmon, with people threatening to shoot. Once again, as in the 70s, we're actually going to have to worry about the safety of people who are fishing. We need to pay more attention to salmon recovery. We're failing. I would ask that you add a new policy, 11M15, lead a local coordinated effort using best available science to identify what is needed to achieve a harvestable surplus of wild salmon. And the third issue deals with quantify water use. And this was spoken to also earlier. We don't know what we're dealing with in terms of water quantity, and we need more than estimates that are worked from looking at the type of product that's being grown and estimating what the evapotranspiration rate is as an estimate of what water might be. So I would ask you to restore the original staff recommendation for policy 11J3, develop and implement an action plan for the with the Department of Ecology to record water usage for all water users by 2025. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Blanche, and then Ann Russell, and then Dylan Kirby.
Hello, I'm Blanche Bybee. I live here in Bellingham, and I thank you for letting me speak, and thank you for the work you've been doing on the comp plan. I'd specifically like to urge you to introduce a policy to measure or quantify water use here in Whatcom County. As a board member of Resources and a paddler, every winter I get recruited by the Resources pollution prevention specialists to paddle some of the Whatcom County's small rivers and creeks that are only navigable when water levels are highest. What surprises me most on these trips is not the pollution entering the waterways. We do see some of that. It's not out of control, but the pipes leading away from the water. These pipes are used to pump water out of these creeks in the summer months. These aren't large, expansive waterways. You can only get a boat down most of them when they are at flood stage. After the winter rains subside and water levels fall, I wonder how the organisms that live and depend on these waterways survive when their scarce summer water is pumped up a pipe out of the creek. quantification of water usage is critical to understanding how our water resources can best be managed for all Whatcom County residents, not just the human ones. So I hope you'll restore the original staff recommendation for policy 11J3 to implement an action plan to record water usage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ann Russell, Dylan Kilroy, and David Jockman.
Back. Ann Russell, Bellingham, also Clean Water Program Manager for Resources, and you've heard from Resources a bit. So I won't use too much more of your time. First of all, thank you for all the work you're doing on the comp plan. I know you've had some long nights, and we appreciate you hearing us out. Lake Whatcom. So the majority of the dwelling units, the majority of the land in the watershed fall under the jurisdiction of the county. And one thing I'd like to point out in regards to Lake Whatcom, but also in regards to this whole chapter, is that Goal 10 of the Growth Management Act states that the county is to protect the environment and enhance the state's high quality of life, including air and water quality and the availability of water. Enhance. I mean, how far are we from enhance? We're barely at protect, especially when it comes to Lake Whatcom. So Resources submitted a letter late last week that you may or may not have had a chance to review. We sent it on May 12th, specifically about Lake Whatcom. So I just want to urge you, I know you've had several work sessions on this chapter, and I think those are just about wrapped up, but I really want to urge you to take a look at the letter we wrote and strongly consider adding in and revising some of the policy recommendations we made. Of particular concern, I just wanted to outline a new policy that we asked you to consider, which is a new policy 11L-8. Urban growth areas shall not be designated in or expanded into the Lake Whatcom watershed. We strongly believe that further urbanization of the Lake Whatcom watershed can only be detrimental to Lake Whatcom water quality. Having a policy in the comprehensive plan expressly discouraging expansion of UGAs into this sensitive watershed will prevent future councils from making choices that would continue to damage this precious resource and get us to enhancement. So really think about that. That's a GMA goal. Enhance. Not just protect, not just stop destruction, but enhance our quality of life and our water quality and our quantity. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dylan, then David, either Jackman or Jockman. I can't tell if that's an A or an O. And then Riley O'Leary.
Hello, my name is Dylan Kilroy. I am a student here at Western. And tonight I'm here to ask you to include language proposed by SRE in the comprehensive plan. We need to do all we can to promote the development of renewable energy and in the community. And the change will happen first at the local level. The future is in renewable energy, and we don't want to be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. David, and then Riley O'Leary, and then Emily Siemens.
Hi, thank you. My name is David Jackman.
Jackman, okay.
Yeah, I'm a resident here of Bellingham and a graduating senior at Western Washington University, and I work locally for a nonprofit business membership organization. I'm really grateful to hear so many people tonight talk to you all about clean water and our environment and our First Nation, the Lummi tribe. But I'm here specifically to talk about wind power and renewable energy and the economics of those two vast powers, resources that we have in our community. I'm, first of all, really grateful to live in a county that promotes clean energy, and I've seen firsthand many companies dedicated to making sure they are a part and advancing our renewable energy and energy efficient future. They are supporting other businesses and our residents of this county who are choosing to do the right thing, and both for financial reasons and ecological and reasons for our future. The industry is booming in this county, the renewable energy industry, and there are thousands of jobs in Whatcom County already related to solar and energy efficiency. With all this enthusiasm for clean energy in our community, It's disappointing that we do not utilize the vast resource of wind power and other forms of renewable energy to keep our money local and create hundreds more jobs. I'm glad that currently our comprehensive plan draft includes language to support renewable energy, but more could be done to improve zoning ordinances for wind that currently are outdated and require unnecessary costly studies, among other barriers to entry for those wind projects. This right here is more relevant to the utilities chapter, but in utilities chapter, page 5-9, line 37, it says policy 5H-1, land use regulations shall be consistent with the renewable energy goals and other goals in that chapter, which is great, but I would like to propose that in this chapter we add language expanding this framework and suggesting that the Whatcom County zoning ordinance related to wind energy systems shall be reviewed and revised using the model zoning ordinance developed by the Northwest Wind Resource and Action Center as a guide. The county shall consider completing a renewable resource and environmental impact study to identify areas of the county that are suitable for renewable energy development. Such areas shall be defined by an energy overlay zone within which preferred energy development shall
30
be
seconds,
permitted
please.
outright. Energy development that utilizes wind, solar, and anaerobic digesters are preferred and shall be encouraged. And in closing, we have a unique opportunity we have a unique community that is willing and able to lead the nation in clean energy and create hundreds of good jobs in the process. I hope that we improve our comprehensive plan to further support renewable energy and build a clean, healthy, and prosperous community. Thank you.
Thank you. Riley, and then Emily Siemens, and then Cole Rogers. Don't be shy. Come on down.
Hello, my name is Riley O'Leary. I live here in Bellingham, and I'm a student at Western Washington. I'm a member of the Students for Renewable Energy, and I'm also going to talk about wind power and how it affects the agricultural sector. Wind turbines are really powerful, and they can help promote the production of agriculture, which is an extremely important part of our county, and there's an unmeasurable demand for it. The ordinance that makes wind turbines illegal prohibits the growth of agricultural and the environmental responsibility that Whatcom County claims it has. There are three things that I want to mention wind turbines have as major benefits. The first is that it supplements the agricultural income by providing another revenue source, which in turn promotes competition and growth. The second is that it lowers the cost of energy, and also the agricultural farmers can use that energy on their farm to help power their sites. Third is that it provides a demand for labor that pays for a livable wage. The average wind technician makes around $45,000 a year, and engineers that develop the wind technology make between $50,000 and $90,000 a year. As someone who fell in love with this area because of the ideas that Whatcom County and Bellingham promote regarding the global health and environmental progression, it's disappointing to see opportunities like this pass us by. This country needs a vanguard for the battle against dangerous climate change, and Whatcom County deserves to be that vanguard. Change the ordinance policy that makes wind turbines illegal in agricultural sectors, allow the people to make their own choice, allow farmers to make more responsible agricultural, and allow the farmers to install wind turbines. I support the language proposed by Students for Renewable Energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily, then Cole Rogers, and Juliana Fisher.
Hello, my name is Emily Simmons. I'm a soon-to-be graduate of Western Washington University. I'm here today to commend the County Council thus far on the language that they have adopted in our comprehensive plan, but I know that as a community we can do better in regards to our emphasis on renewable energy. Modern society today has come to depend on reliable electricity as an essential resource, and Whatcom County is no exception. As a former employee of Seattle City Light, I had the opportunity to experience the importance of emphasizing geographically appropriate sources of clean energy. In King County, what is particularly important is hydroelectricity, but renewable energy in regards to wind is also extremely important, and we have not developed that to the point that it needs to be developed. I am asking the council to revisit the current wind ordinance for Whatcom County because thus far our current ordinance doesn't allow us to adopt wind energy on the extent that We should. In addition, I believe that the language that the Students for Renewable Energy will be providing should be adopted by the County Council. This is a phenomenal economic and technological opportunity, as my peers here today have already mentioned. Let's be on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you. Cole, and then Juliana, and then Edward Uri.
Hello, my name is Cole Rogers. I'm a student at Western studying electrical engineering with a concentration in power and energy. Whatcom County has been my home for 15 years and has given me so much in terms of community, education, fulfillment, and support. As I move towards graduation, I look for opportunities to use my education to give back, to repay some of what the county has given to me over the last decade. To this end, it is important to me that there is a vibrant green energy economy in Whatcom County so that my cohort and I can contribute our passions and talents to the community that has been so generous and so impactful in our lives. There has been a great momentum in this field with regards to green energy and solar power legislation, but the critical missing element is what is proposed in the language drafted by Students for Renewable Energy, which will promote the development of wind power, anaerobic digestion, and other cutting-edge green power technology. I urge you to consider adding SRE's language to the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Juliana, then Edward, and then Joe Knight.
Hello, Council. My name is Juliana Fisher, and I'm the president of Western Students for Renewable Energy. Whatcom County is a place I've come to call home, to call my community. Today is my 22nd birthday, and I am at a public hearing for the Environment Chapter of the Whatcom County Comprehensive Plan. I would never have imagined this to be where I spend my 22nd birthday. I'm just here because I care about preserving a planet that is habitable, desirable, and sustainable. In my studies at the WW Institute for Energy Studies, I've come to understand the intricate details of the grid, balancing load and demand, and renewable energy policies and incentives as the barriers between the systems we want to have and the systems we currently have. By developing all of our potential renewable energy sources, we, as a community, will be able to align ourselves among the leaders of energy independence and advocates for climate justice. We, the WW Students for Renewable Energy, propose the following language be added to the Whatcom County Comprehensive Plan update. We understand that this proposal is multifaceted in its effect on the comprehensive plan. This language targets the Environment Chapter as a policy aimed at mitigating our impact on climate change, while also dealing with a land use revision, an energy goal as seen in the Utilities Chapter, and a strategy to enhance economic development. In the Environment Chapter on page 11-12, Policy 11D-6, please add a task for the Climate Impact Advisory Committee. Recommend updates to Whatcom County land use policies and develop regulations to support renewable energy development goals. To guide the work of this committee, we'll be recommending specific changes also to the Utilities Chapter that revisit the Wind System Energy Ordinance with an eye toward expanding wind energy development to agricultural and rural areas where it is currently prohibited, after conducting a programmatic EIS in order to identify critical flyways, habitats, and other important areas to avoid. I understand you have a lot of important decisions to make when considering this comprehensive plan. We'll be following up with a letter containing these specific recommendations. I urge you to consider this proposed language for inclusion. Changing the world has to start somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward, and then Joe Knight.
Good evening, Council. Edward Uri, spelled U-R-Y, Bellingham. And I support a lot of what's been said just now by Juliana and also by many of my peers in the room here. But I also just want to take a moment to thank and commend you for all the work you're doing and the diligent task of working to plan ahead for the future, and give props to the county staff for introducing a section on climate change into the comprehensive plan environment chapter. I think this is critical and clearly a forward-thinking, wise move to make for dealing with the crisis and challenges that we are currently facing and will continue to face in the future. As you know, they're with record high temperatures and unseasonably warm nighttime and daytime temperatures. We're now seeing rapid snow melt, which will likely lead to very dangerously low in-stream flow levels later at the end of the summer, and is seriously putting constraints on our water resources. So
I think the language you've introduced here in Policy 11D is excellent. The goal to strengthen the sustainability of Whatcom's economy, natural environment, and build communities by responding and adapting to the impacts of climate change. And all the policies under that, I fully am in support of. Policy 11D to promote the efficient use, conservation, and protection of water resources is a great policy to put on the books. Although I think we can, deduce that it's going to be difficult to do that if we don't quantify and measure all countywide water use. But moving on, I just want to particularly thank you for also adopting a policy upon our recommendation to convene a climate impact advisory committee. And I think, this is a great way to go, and we can really, with all the, the great minds in the county coming together and being able to participate in this process, we can come up with a whole host of policies to really move us forward in the 21st century here with all, the new innovations in economics and technology that we have to advance into, the next decade. So, furthermore, all the policies are great, and but as it stated, it all comes back around to, in order to being able to adequately facilitate, or for the development regulations to actually put these things into effect, we really need to take a look at our water use, which is probably one of the most imminent threats of climate change, of course, that we're facing. So, just to ensure that we can have enough drinking water for our fish farms and people into the future, let's strongly consider doing your best to responsibly implement countywide water quantifying and measuring. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, since I have 10 more seconds, also thank you very much for introducing the policy to oppose fracking, hydraulic fracturing in Whatcom County, and for unanimously passing that. I really want to give you props. I think that's extremely wise way to protect our water and land resources in the county. So thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Joe Knight. I live near Nooksack, my county. And I read the Chapter 11. And, of course, my first question was, will it work? And I looked at the first part, which is very good. The GMA requires Whatcom County to identify and manage critical areas in such a manner as to prevent destruction of the resource base and reduce potential loss to property and human life. I thought, well, good. But then I came to a few paragraphs later, it says much of the environmental degradation and destruction to property occurs as a result of a lack of information or understanding rather than willful action. And I was thinking, what about willful action? There's nothing here to protect us against the willful action to the environment. And I live near Swift Creek. In fact, the road I live on is right, if you read the EIS, right on the very edge of where if Swift Creek flooded, where the flood line would be. It won't affect my property. I'm 300 feet high. But there was an EIS, a preliminary and final. There is an existential threat from asbestos and, I think more importantly, from the heavy metals in the sediment to the agricultural land around where I live. It's well documented, and money was appropriated to build levees and eventually settlement ponds, and the money was absconded politically and to favor a pipeline in Linden to move water from their milk dehydration plant at Dairy Gold and dump it back into the Nooksack. If you're not familiar with this, you probably are. I hope you are. And I'm going, this document doesn't do a lot to remedy or address that. And so I'll send you an email, but I wanted to add to the policy section, which deals with those hazards. The one, it's 11A, protect natural resources and systems, life and property from potential hazards. We know there's a hazard. So it'll be in effect something like this. When there is a conflict between commercial development and the protection of natural resources, the county will administratively act to protect natural resources and any potential loss to property and human life. And so I'll send that to
30
you.
seconds,
And I would
please.
like it included in the document, because you have to have some kind of a hammer to deal with the machinations of political forces that, which I know you can't control, but at least you have something that you can use. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the end of the sign-ups. If there's anyone else who would like to speak to Chapter 11, please come forward.
Roger Almscar again, Mr. Chairman, council members. I don't have anything prepared for this chapter right now, but I do want to make a few comments. I think there's a great irony here tonight in that we have almost everybody who's spoken has said they care about the environment, they want to protect it. That's how I look at it, and I take actions, and I'm happy to see some of my tax money spent on programs as long as they accomplish something, but there are some that don't. But in order to protect the environment and all the resources that we talk about, we need a strong economy. And we get that strong economy when we look carefully at our existing regulations, and I know I keep harping on this. Over-regulation is a big issue here in Washington State and across the whole country. If you Google that, you'll probably get 5,000 items on over-regulation from all kinds of sources, some of them good, some of them not. So also people talk about a quality of life. Well, if you don't have a decent income and a decent place to live, you don't have much of a quality of life. So that gets us back to housing. Some people have mentioned the Growth Management Act goals. There's 14 of them. One of the first Planning Commission meetings I went to, I said to the commission, would you please put those up front so people know what they are? And the commission agreed to do that, and now I see they're not up front anymore. In fact, in housing, it was taken out. I don't know where it is now. Regarding property rights, I think it's important to know that most people who care about property rights are very much aware that they have responsibilities to their neighbors, to the public, to the community. It's only a handful of people who don't care. I think if we asked in any meeting we go to, how many people are willing to go by the rules to protect the environment, almost everybody would say yes. There's two sides to it. You know, the bookend piece I handed out talks about the police power, which is the power of the government to regulate private activities in a very broad sense, compared to property rights. So we need to find a balance within those two bookends, so to speak. And I think if you read the GMA carefully, you will find that GMA says local governments work really hard at finding a balance among all 14 goals. There are some cases on that have gone to the hearings board.
30 seconds, please.
Finally, what people like me are looking for are a set of rules. We need rules that are fair to all that are affected. They're clear and concise, not conflicting with other rules, which is a very common situation in the land use world. The building code is not such a problem. There's only one author of that. And the rules should actually accomplish a legitimate public purpose, and that term is defined in this booklet that I handed out and is available from State Department of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rihanna Johnston. I'm a student at Western Washington University studying environmental policy and a member of Students for Renewable Energy. Climate change is one of the biggest threats, probably the single biggest threat to our future, and our energy systems are the greatest cause of this problem. By creating policies and goals in Whatcom's comprehensive plan in favor of renewable energy systems, we can do our part in fighting climate change. Whatcom County alone obviously won't solve this problem, but local action is crucial to mitigating the impact of climate change. So I would just like to ask you to please consider the language proposed by the Students for Renewable Energy to help improve the wind ordinance section. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Patrick Allison, 4825 Alderson Road, Birch Bay. You know, I don't have to go through all those things I've told you in years past about stormwater and water issues. All I have to do is say, listen to these young people. They have a handle on it.
Tim Douglas from Bellingham. I could see that economic development matters are interwoven through all the commentary tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and make mine real quickly too. And this has to do more with Chapter 7 probably. First of all, we can see by many of the comments tonight that we have some creative, bright minds here in this county, and a lot of opportunity if we look into the future to see what possibilities there might be for new elements to our economy. And this is what I want to encourage you to do. In the past history, we have looked very carefully at one, setting out a strategy, which we did in our worst economic times, which we followed very, very carefully, working cooperatively together, and we achieved a lot. One of the best examples was the attraction of the southern terminus of the Alaska Marine Highway System, which we did as a very strong cooperative effort on the part of the whole community, public, private sector, small governments, the port, etc., and many citizens involved in that. And there are more opportunities to do such things in the future if we work at it. So one, I would encourage you to include a specific strategy or an objective of having a strategy that's well defined so that we actually have some things to work on. And a second piece I'd like to suggest that you make sure is in that strategy is an outreach effort. Part of the strength, the thing that led to thousands of new jobs here, was not only building on the local talented workforce and local businesses we had, but also reaching out strategically to ones that we might be able to attract to Whatcom County. Didn't mean we had to burst with growth. It was thoughtful, etc. And I think that this is possible too, and I would really encourage the council to invest part of your economic development money, specifically with others, in doing that kind of an outreach effort. Let's go out to places where we know there's some appropriate possibilities and invite them in to a place that really works for them and for us as well. And I think that will do as much as anything else we can do to make sure that we have an enhanced and strong economy in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy Harris. I'd like to thank Roger Almscar for explaining much better than I could what occurred for almost a year and 3/4 at the Citizen Advisory Committee for the CAO, which explains, I believe, why we have such a problem with our wildlife policies, something that nobody's discussing. And I'd like to draw your attention to goals 11L and 11M. I think we have some major problems here. The policies that we put forth and the goals in the comp plan are supposed to guide development regulations. The critical area ordinance is a development regulation. However, there are minimum standards imposed upon us by state law in the form of a WAC, the Whatcom Administrative Code. Those standards for the development regulations in the CAO are stronger than what I'm reading as a policy in your comp plan. And that's a problem because the development regulations have to comply with the policies. And if the policies are weaker than what state law is requiring us to do in our development regulations, we're not complying with the GMA. I am reading provisions in here that don't even make sense to me. You're not using the right, not you, but the county isn't using, because you guys have done a good job, as you know, the county is not using the right terminology, the right language. For instance, let's go to goal 11L, protect and enhance natural systems. I wrote you a letter. Natural systems isn't a word that's really used in the GMA or in conservation. We talk about ecosystems. I don't know what a natural system is. No one else uses the term natural systems. That's a problem. Which provide economic, ecological, aesthetic, and cultural benefit. So then you have policy goal 11.1. Define and identify habitat and habitat features important to a balanced and sustainable web of life that supports fish and wildlife. I have no idea what that means. It sounds like a Disneyland story that you go to see with your kids. Seriously, and
30
it's sad.
seconds, please.
Policy 11.2, I think it really will illustrate a lot of things that are wrong. First of all, we're talking about habitat here. We're not talking about species. We're supposed to also be talking about species. And when you get to goal 11.2, they talk about endangered, threatened, or sensitive species by the state and federal government. Well, there's also local species that should be including things like candidate species or any species that's in a declining population
Time.
or that has cultural value. That's not included in here. I hope we have more time to talk about this. I'll be happy to answer questions or to talk to anyone individually, but this I do see as a significant compliance problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Petrini, Resources for Sustainable Communities. I'll keep my comments super brief. On behalf of our over 20,000 members, the vast majority of whom live in Whatcom County, I'm just registering our support for the Students for Renewable Energy and their comments relating to the wind energy ordinance, both in this chapter and in several other chapters of the comprehensive plan. We hope that you'll look closely at that language and consider reviewing and adopting language to plan for the next 20 years of renewable energy development here in Whatcom County. Thanks a lot for your time and for holding this public hearing and all the work that you're doing on this comprehensive plan. We really are looking forward to the product. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin Dexter, 3726 Broad Street, Bellingham. Most of what I intended to say has been said, so I'll skip it. I just want to emphasize, as a member of the Environmental Working Group, that the comments on in Ann Russell's letter of the 12th of May to you guys, if you've seen it, have unanimous support among us. I personally would have gone much further and included a goal for the joining with the city of Bellingham to create a 100-year program to completely repurchase the watershed. But I suppose it'll be mid-century before the wisdom of that becomes obvious. So also, if you council members haven't received enough email and annotated and cited research papers from Eric Hurst on measurement questions, just let me know. I'll make sure Eric sends you more. And I say that in support of 11J3. Many other people have said that. I would say further that it needs to include policies to, we mean metering. I mean, let's be plain. A real settlement of the issues that Barbara and Carl and myself have been working on for in excess of 2 decades aren't going to be settled without metering and measurement. Even the farmers understand that. They've sponsored forums for water rights swapping, moving, and you can't do that if you can't measure. There is no constituency that won't benefit from that. So I hope you'll make that a centerpiece of Chapter 11. And for once, I heard Roger Olmsgar say a lot of stuff I agree with. I only want to add to that what I said earlier. I meant to say,
30
the words
seconds,
of Gretchen
please.
Daly, the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. It's not ever the other way around. So we are in support of really good economic policy when we're very strictly protecting the environment. And anyone from a business or economic interest that contradicts that is asking you for a subsidy. That's my
Time.
take-home message to you tonight. Thank you.
Hi, Sandy Robson again, Birch Bay. First, I want to say that
I listened closely to what Dina Jensen said. And I know her well, and I didn't even know she'd be making that particular comment. And I wanted to state that I wholly agree with that. I didn't even know about the listing of the chapters and the order in which those were listed. And I thought that was a really good point that she made about environment being so far down on the list. And I hope that that's something that you all may be able to affect on the comprehensive plan. I think that would be important. And in the points that she made in terms of what she supported, I wholeheartedly agree. I just wanted to state that. I wanted to say one additional comment that I thought of in listening tonight. Whatcom County Public Utility District, which is a public utility, signed a contract in March 2013 with the Gateway Pacific Terminal folks for a capacity of up to 5.33 million gallons of Nooksack River water annually to be used for that project. That contract runs through the year 2042. That contract was agreed to with extremely limited knowledge of the public, and to my best knowledge, without a public participation plan, which would include notifying the public about such a large use of our Nooksack River water. I think there needs to be a policy included in our comprehensive plan, placed potentially in the environment chapter, maybe somewhere else, but that's where I'm thinking, about I'm not expert in that, about the agreements that our public utility district would make and sign with corporations, organizations for using such large amounts of water that impact all of us. Water is a vital issue in terms of our environment's health. That policy about that process should ensure that it would be a very public process with ample public notice so that the public understands how our Whatcom County Public Utility District uses our water. And I think the public deserves that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carol Perry, Whatcom County. Just to answer the last speaker, if she would go to the PUD 1 meetings, 8 o'clock, twice a month, this whole thing was addressed. Their legal counsel, John Sitkin, addressed this. It's all taken care of. Their contract is all covered. So much for information. It's sometimes an advantage to be an old person. Max and I are getting to that point, and we've seen a lot. I was a student graduating from WSU with honors in 1962, so it's over 50 years, so I am old. And it's wonderful to see these students here. I have my oldest grandson is a student at Western, learning some things I don't think they're right, but he's a student. He's doing well in communication, and I wish I had taken communication because I so much want to communicate to you what's in my heart. Talking about history that was mentioned here, this young gal said to be on the right side of history. In the 70s, Paul Ehrlich wrote a book called The Population Bomb. And in the 70s, I had little ones at home. And as I heard what he said, by 1980, we were all going to die because the world was going to be overpopulated. I was scared. And I could say more about that, but I've only got 3 minutes. A little bit later, they said, the earth is cooling, no food. Your kids are going to starve. We waited. A few years later, we started to hear about global warming. The polar bears were all dying. Remember the picture of the polar bear? You know what they say now? There's more polar bears than there's ever been. They're thriving. Then they said, it's warming. But then the satellites,
30 seconds, please.
all the information, no warming. The ice packs are melting. But then there's another report that says They're thicker than they've ever been. What are you to believe? Be careful what you believe.
Time.
And let history teach you some things. But I want to say thank you for your work this afternoon in committee. I think it was wise. It helped a whole lot of property owners that felt that it was unfair. So I could say a lot more, but thank you. I have watched your work. I've been here, and I know it's hard. You're getting things from every direction, but thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Halterman, Whatcom County. I wanted to just reiterate when I stated those statistics, they came from an online source that is utilized by the Western Washington University Economics Department, Hart Hodges. If you want a link to it, I'll give it to you. It showed about 8 counties in Washington state that are actually in a downward slipping trend. Cumulatively from 2005 to 2014, Whatcom County ranked 21st. In the year 2014, Whatcom County ranked 30th. So that's why we're in a slipping economically, cost of living, wage-wise. Environment. Whatcom County is a wonderful place to live. How many of you moved here because it's a wonderful, wonderful place to live? Is it a less wonderful place to live than it was when you first got here? I've lived here all my life. I'm 3rd generation. It's still a wonderful place to live. It's a little more congested in downtown Bellingham. A lot of that has to do with how the infrastructure is being kept upgraded. But it's still a wonderful place to live. The students that came here talking to you, it's great. They love this place. They'd probably love to stay here. Probably 95% or more will have to leave because they won't be able to find a job that affords them to stay here. So you have to be, what I'm asking is for you to use good economic sense when you're creating your language in this environment thing. I see a lot of restrictive things that would prevent businesses from coming here. With regards to anaerobic digesters, I think they're great. The farmers have been screaming for them. It's great. Solar and wind still requires a lot of our resource lands in order to make it viable and create enough energy that you would actually get something worth it. And what did they had to write a special clause now, special regulation for all those huge wind farms down in California that has an allowable, acceptable amount of bird kill for the golden eagles. As well as these wind farms also create some type of seismic tectonic, I don't know what the word is for it, but it does cause problems if they're too closely situated where people are actually living. So that's something to be concerned. It's still not economically viable. We're talking about affordability here. We want to afford to live here. Are we going to create an energy source here that makes it less affordable to stay here? We have hydroelectric. We have a lot of really affordable energy. The anaerobic
30
digesters
seconds,
are great.
please.
I don't see utilizing a lot of valuable resource land that we need for our tax base to keep this place clean, viable, and economically attractive. Please make sure whatever language you use keeps our farmers here, keeps the existing businesses here, and actually attracts more businesses to come to Whatcom County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on Chapter 11, Environment?
Dominic was my name. I'm from Custer. I've heard this whole session, and I will say that there are some solutions to these problems, but putting this off to 2025 is not going to solve the problem, because 2025 you're going to have the same problems. You're going to be faced with the same people or type of people coming in complaining about 2025. See, I'm convinced that we're trusting in man. We've left God out of the picture completely, contrary to what our forefathers intended. But I'll give you a little bit of what I would do if I was in control like you folks are. I'd close at our county line and the borders. No people could come in. And in 9 years, by the time this whole people are dead, we'll have good water quality. We won't have to worry about the fish. That'll take care of it. Stop this stuff. But they're not going to solve it when you leave out the Lord Jesus Christ in the message that he gave for us as a nation through our forefathers. Thank you very much. I don't intend to insult you. Forgive me if I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to Chapter 11, Environment?
Who could follow that?
Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and we'll go into our open session. During the open session, members of the public will have up to 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to county business. As we just did, before you begin your comment, please state your name and your topic of interest. And if your last name is something complicated, please spell it for us. So come on forward and talk to us about anything relevant to county business.
Or not. It's like-
Wendy Harris. I want to talk about something I don't normally talk about, which is fiscal responsibility. It's really been bothering me that we're being told that we don't have enough money for emergency medical services, which we've got to have, and we don't have enough money for the jail. I don't doubt that that's true. And we're being told that, we need to approve a levy and more taxes. But here's what bothers me. At the same time that this is going on and the public's being told we have to pay more, I see the county and the city continually promoting these incentive programs. And incentives aren't free. Somebody pays for them. And then I saw the PDR program this morning, and I've normally not had a problem with it, but I thought, if we hadn't downzoned a lot of that property, we wouldn't have to pay so much to be paying people to buy their development rights. And then I saw a letter, a public comment from an attorney who represents a number of these farm boards. Their names are all they're all jumbled variations, so I get confused about how they want to make sure the county's not doing anything that's affecting their rights to develop their property. And it's like they want it both ways. We want incentives, and we don't want to be regulated, and we want secrecy in what we're doing, but we want to be able to, subdivide and sell our property for development. This isn't responsible fiscal management. If you're going to be asking the public to be paying money for basic essential services, which we need, please don't be giving that money away for free to businesses, to developers, to farmers. It looks bad, and it makes somebody like me that's normally very supportive of these kinds of levy and tax increases want to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public session?
Good evening. My name is Gordon Bakke, Bakke Farms, Saxon Road, Acme. I was here a couple of years ago on your sessions. I'd just like to mention, this is on the comprehensive plan, the RRMA, Recreation Resource Management Areas. Talks about open areas, large areas, and recreation and property rights. The farm that has been in our family since 1877, that's 2 years before this Washington became a state. We have managed it well. We have had family members living there continuously. In fact, in the Nooksack Valley, from 1925 to 1964, there was always someone named Baki going to Mount Baker High School. So we've been around a long time, and Lord willing, we'll stay around a lot longer. Another 100 years if Lord tarries. But I just hope that, as I was reading this, some of these things here goes back and forth, it's easy for you to say when you have a house on a city block, not too many people are going to build a road or pathway through your property. But when you have the acreage that we do in that area, and a lot of people have enjoyed it over the years, and we've had a lot of community events there, but it's we invite people, and that's the way it should be at your house too. Now, I lived in Africa, and in Africa, the way you do it, you're walking most of the time. So between here and there, if your property is here, that path will go right through there. That's just the way it is. But
30 seconds, please.
so I just respectfully ask that you don't try to ramrod something down that takes away and infringes on our property rights, our, trying to regulate and delegate and tell us how we shall do this or that. I think we've done a very fine job.
Time.
And thank you.
You want to tell? Excuse me, Mr. Baki?
We did vote earlier in committee to remove RRMA from the comp plan.
Okay, well, I wasn't here to your committee. I just,
Okay.
Well,
we just wanted you to know that.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, but anyhow, you've heard my thing, and yeah, you're welcome to enjoy the valley. Thank you.
Been to his place. It's beautiful. Do you have chocolate this time?
No, and this time I'm going to grind on you a bit. Okay. I'm Patrick Allisey, 4825 Alderson Road, Birch Bay. Sometimes you make a mistake and you write down Birch Bay. Now, I look in here and I see 4 and 5, resolution authorizing the executive to make application for Birch Bay Community Park Community for like $600 and some odd thousand. There's 2 of them in there. Is this 600 plus 600? I don't know. I couldn't find anything online. And where is the money going? Is it going to a new park area?
Pay us back.
That's what I smelled in here. It's to pay us back for money that you've spent on a parking lot at Birch Bay. Now, there's some property at Birch Bay that came up for public auction. A couple of you have heard about this. It went for a total of, I don't know, $80,000. It was around 7 acres. It would have been a beautiful park for taking care of animals. At the time, I had suggested this when you were looking at what I call the parking lot, and I said to you, when you choose to buy one thing, you're choosing not to buy another. So you went and bought this thing that you thought was in the middle of Birch Bay. It's really a parking lot, as near as I can tell. I think I encourage dogs to go there and run around. And now you want to be compensated from somebody, Fish and Wildlife, for buying this property when south of there were 7 acres that was available at the same time for $2,500. You could have had it for less than $2,500. And guess what? You could have bought it at auction for far less than that. yes, you do deserve to have me come up here and roast you.
Is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak during the open session?
Chris Halterman, Whatcom County. This is what I came here for. I heard that you guys are considering doing a property tax increase to pay for emergency management, fire. Been here a long time. Never had a problem paying for all of our fire districts and services, but that was back in a day when we had volunteers. We had a huge push, I don't know by who, could have been political, to take all of these volunteer fire districts and create fire districts with fully paid staff, all EMTs, Cadillac. How's about if before we decide to try to add another tax on the properties that will just increase the lack of affordability, I've said this so many times today, take a look at how you might possibly be able to go back to some of that volunteer fire departments. Most of the people out there, they love serving these fire districts. I have a very good family friend we've known forever, and he's been extremely concerned for the last 20 years on this big push to take all of these fire districts and create these paid staff with benefits and all of this stuff that just want to grow bigger and bigger, rather than the volunteers who are doing a great job. So please take that into consideration when you're talking about doing another property tax increase. How can we first look at reducing our expenses? 2008, 2009, our revenues were stagnant. So we had to take a look at how do we get our expenses in line with our revenues. Let's do that first before we go out there and ask the people for more money. There are ways to deal with this rather than asking for a tax increase.
Carol Perry, Whatcom County. I noticed over the years that I've come here, and as Max and I have gone to ag advisory committees, planning unit meetings, critical areas advisory committees, and things like that, it always was distressing to me that there were no farmers there. And that's been one thing that you've said as a council. The farming community just doesn't come. They're not represented. That was especially something on my heart as far as the planning unit. Such a big need for water issues, and the farmers today, this week, they're busy. They have to be with all the regulation. They've got to get their crops in, get their manure out, and so forth. But one thing I thought that you should really think about doing is it's hard to find farm news. And Max takes a paper called Capital Press. And this issue, What's Upstream, is amazing, just amazing. And even though it's negative as far as how the money came to Whatcom County for the pictures on the buses, it's uniting the farmers. They are furious. And they've taken this, and they have a little handout, and you have a letter from Langebeer and Traxler, and we received this letter. It's from Whatcom County Farm Bureau, Whatcom County Cattlemen's Association, Whatcom County Dairy Federation, Whatcom Family Farmers, and the Ag Water Boards. I think that's the WIDS. Read it. It's very thoughtful and very good. And we've been through hours and hours of comp plan stuff. And the things in here are good. And they represent, I think, good things for the farmers. If you want to help farmers, read this stuff. And I know you're just bombarded with information, so I don't know how you sort it out. But Capital Press, it has articles on all sorts of issues: wolves, farm products, economics, farm economics.
30 seconds, please.
It's really a wonderful paper. And they do practice journalism. The fellow that wrote this article, money coming from the EPA, Puget Sound Partnership, money being funneled to public relations peoples coming back through the Swinomish tribe. I mean, it's money is in back of most of this stuff. And if you go to the joint board and the management team meetings, you'll see how the
Time.
Puget Sound Partnership is making decisions for Whatcom County. And you need to be making the decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Cliff Langley from Whatcom County. First of all, I want to thank you for your vote this afternoon. And in my little rant, I meant what I said, but I was thinking this is something that I have wanted to say basically since January. For the most part, I don't feel like I'm represented by the council that's here. I think I tend to be more conservative. It seems like council tends to be more liberal. And so, and that's, and that's a good thing in a way. I mean, it's good that we have opposing opinions and we can discuss things, bring things out. But so anyway, I just wanted to express to you a little bit of where I'm coming from. I want to address something that I heard Paul say in the debate with Bruce Ayers. He said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that the purpose of government is to enhance quality of life. And I don't think that is a American view, or at least our founders' view of what a government is supposed to be. And then Rudd had some questions, and he wanted to understand a little bit about how people thought and why they thought what they did. And so, real briefly, I just want to read you something that we all know. It's from the Declaration of Independence, and it says that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, and this goes to the purpose of government, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So as you look at your job, you're representing us, and the purpose of the government is to protect my rights, my God-given rights. And when we start protecting or attempting to protect group rights, the rights of the individual get trampled. And so when you do your deliberations, from my perspective, I would like to have you ask, are we protecting, and there's going to have to be obviously compromise because different people have different thoughts.
30 seconds, please.
But are we protecting the rights of the individuals? If you protect the rights of the individuals, the groups will be protected. But if you advance the rights of the groups, the individual rights will be trampled. And so that was just something I wanted to say. Again, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the vote this afternoon.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is David Bernstein again. I've been coming to Birch Bay since I was a boy. I remember being 6 years old coming to Birch Bay. And I'm concerned that the money proportionally that should be coming to Birch Bay is not making it there. I'm wondering where the schools are in Birch Bay. There's a lot of revenue being collected from taxpayers. I'm very concerned about the preservation of the wildlife and the money being properly allocated to protect the environment in Birch Bay. And if that means that I have independent audits done forensically, I will have those done in every capacity line item. I am that concerned about it. When I have to go to, when people can't walk for 5 weeks after a storm when they have to walk across the street to avoid getting hurt, and walk to the other side of the street and have to contact 15 county engineers, and I'm just astonished. It creates such a traffic safety and safety issue. It's a shame to have the amount of money collected and to see this occur. And I've brought this to the attention of Craig Olson. It seems like I have to go back and back and back. We almost got flooded out recently because the fire department couldn't get a hold of the county on President's Day because there was a tire blocked in the storm drain. If that tire, I sent my son up and I said it's about ready to breach the drain on Cottonwood Court and Cottonwood Drive. I said, run for higher ground. And so he did. It was a flash flood. We had a low tide. Fortunately, if we had had a high tide, we couldn't determine there was a tire stuck in the storm drain. I want to know.
30 seconds, please.
I want to know why no one picks up the phone from the fire department, and the fire department tells me they're frustrated, and the potential for all of Cottonwood Court and the Cottonwood District to flood was allowed to occur. That's a critical issue. We're paying money for services down there. And if I will go through and line item, and I will question everything that's gone on there with forensic audit.
Time.
I'm not upset about it.
Could you leave your phone number with her so I can give you a call?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak during the open session? Seeing none, we will close the open session and move into our consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, the Whatcom County Finance and Administrative Services meeting as committee met today, and we considered items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda. These all received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Do we need to point out the changes?
That's in the next one, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to accept the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, but I'm trying to find it. It's not that. No, not on consent agenda.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0.
And I can continue with finance, but you have natural resources listed here next.
Yes, let's go ahead with natural resources.
Yeah, we had one item in committee this morning. It was a resolution authorizing the purchase of development rights program administrator to apply for PDR easement match fund from the Washington State Recreation Conservation Office. We had a good update on the PDR program, and that resolution comes forward with a recommendation of approval, 3-0 from the committee, and I so move.
Okay, we have a recommendation for approval. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, the next item is from Finance and Administrative Services again, is an ordinance amending the 2016 Whatcom County budget, 9th request in the amount of $162,263. This received a recommendation of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion for this ordinance. Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, the next item is one that has changed, which was a resolution authorizing the county executive to make application and enter into a grant agreement with the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for funding through the Land and Water Conservation Fund for trail development at South Fork Park in the amount of $209,000. This, the only change to this is instead of the Land and Water Conservation Fund, the actual funding source will be the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program. This received a vote of 3-0 as originally stated, but so I move to the full council for consideration.
Okay, yeah, we should have a second on this one. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Ms. Brenner.
Yeah, and I think it was about this. Mike, maybe you could answer my. We got some kind of, maybe that was the updated version we got from you today. Is this it?
Yeah. Late this evening, I was notified that, in fact, they're
Yeah.
moving that
Here it is.
application into that
That's what I
program.
was looking for. On number 4, it talks about our organization expects our matching share of project funding will be derived from donations and real estate excise tax pursuant. So the REIT, is this REIT?
Correct. We've already appropriated funds for development, so we're able to use funds that we've appropriated as well as funds from the Nesset Foundation and that to match the state funds.
Okay, I just, this is just making me a little bit nervous about, REIT is like a very finite amount, and I know the issue of purchase of South Fork Park is a done deal. I didn't support it, but I'm a little bit concerned about exactly what we're going to end up with, including what kind of users and all that. And I remember there were some real issues at the time from people who were concerned about horseback riding and maybe off-road vehicles and stuff like that. And I'm just concerned, I want to be sure that what we end up with is something that we can manage. Are we there on?
The council here approved the master plan for the park several years ago.
Right.
And then approved the capital improvements in here. And what this is, we're going after the grant funding to
Pay us
hopefully
back.
wrap up.
Yes.
No, this is for this is for development of the trail basically from the Galbraith property from the trailhead, which construction will be starting this summer. And then that will be the trail system through the DNR property and then south end of the Overby and the Nesset property on there.
And that, because that's a pretty steep area out there, and I'm just wondering if, I have a concern about what kind of usage there'll be.
Well,
And who's going to be patrolling that? I mean, on DNR land, it's DNR, but.
No, on DNR land, we will have an easement where we're in the final stages of finishing an easement with the Department of Natural Resources
So we
for
would have
that,
to do the
and it will be a county-operated trail on the state land.
And that, I guess that's my concern. I remember one of the big issues for the people in the South Fork was, is this going to be maintained? How well? We're kind of spread thin, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody's feeling very confident that this will be maintained to a point where we're not going to have a lot of complaints from people out there.
Well, we have it programmed in our operations and that.
I know, I'm
so-
still asking the question.
Yeah.
Because I didn't support it, and if it's going to happen, I want to make sure there's adequate funds for, that we're not going to end up with a lot of complaints. I mean, I remember this happened with the reconveyance, it's happening here. The reconveyance was almost portrayed to everybody as something everybody wanted, but they didn't all want the same stuff, and it ended up becoming what a lot of people didn't want to support, and now it's there. And that's my concern about this. We did have there were a lot of people who like parks coming in and telling us what a good idea this was, but a lot of the people living out there were concerned about the county maintaining it and making sure it's not degraded and people aren't, having to call the county all the time with complaints. I want to know, do you feel very confident that this will be well maintained?
I do feel confident, and I think that's the reason we went through the master plan. We presented what the costs to manage and maintain it, restroom facilities, the parking areas. We aren't allowing motorized recreation on those trails, although there is motorized recreation that occurs on the DNR property.
Okay, well, I'm not going to support it, but I just wanted to feel a little more confident about it. And you know that. I mean, it's not a big secret.
Okay, any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
That passes 6-1 with Councilmember Brenner opposed.
Next item is a resolution authorizing the county executive to make application and enter into a grant agreement with the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for funding through the Aquatic Lands Enhancement Account for acquisition of the Birch Bay Community Park property in the amount of $615,884. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion?
I have one question because of Pat.
Okay.
I thought this was the same amount, that we were just going through two different programs.
We're applying for 615 from each of those programs.
Right. Yeah, I don't think, I'm thinking he didn't really understand what we were doing.
Okay.
Because, okay.
Question two,
Mr. Mann?
just as long as you're here, he referred to it a couple times as a parking lot. And I know when we made the push to acquire that property, there was a lot of buy-in from the community, and they were passionate about how they were going to raise funds and do some capital improvements and manage it themselves, and they just needed us to do the acquisition. So what is the situation up there? Is that actually happening, or is it just a parking lot?
We have funds budgeted this year to go through a community planning effort. We have an RF, we are in the final stages of actually negotiating with a design firm, and then we'll do a community planning effort on what that park will entail.
Okay.
There will be parking, there will be restrooms, there will be green space, along with everything else that is there. Plus, we're looking at how that ties into the berm and pedestrian project that runs between that and the water.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Brown?
A little off topic, but assuming Mr. Allison brought it up, did the other parcel that we were looking at, did that actually go to auction?
We've not followed that. When the council made its decision to purchase this one, we had focused on that, and we did not keep track of what's transpired since with that other parcel.
Can I just suggest we find out, because if it did get sold at auction for $80,000 or whatever the number he said, then there must be some serious impairment for that property for development, but that doesn't preclude it from being attractive for a park.
Yeah, there were critical areas on there, and there's also, it's a pretty rich site from the standpoint of cultural resources.
Right. So make a nice park, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's only money.
That's right. Anyway, so
Brenner.
Well, you just said that once we do something, you don't follow the other stuff. Isn't there some way to, if it's not you, can't we have somebody in the administration follow that stuff, and maybe the county could consider buying something that sounds like such a good deal? Because I do remember that discussion. Even if it's got lots of critical areas and everything, that's 7 acres for $80,000.
Well, that was not a direction we were given to look at another park site out there.
I know, but sometimes you got to be on kind of looking at this stuff so we don't end up paying the highest price for the smallest return.
Mr. Schroeder?
Yeah, so Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. I will look into the auction process to the property to the south. I would highly suspect that it's not at $80,000 if it went through on that purchase. There was millions of dollars invested on that property for development potential. It was held up by a number of different banks and different firms on liens for the property. But I will look into it and get back to council to show some.
That would be great. I'm just saying it because I remember, I saw that property. If we got that for $80,000, that would be an incredible deal. And that's why I'm kind of, when he said that, he usually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, he lives just down the street. So I'll do some research and take a look.
Does anybody remember the address?
What?
I still have that in the files, but I don't have it with me.
Okay, back to our resolution.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, the next item is a resolution authorizing the county executive to make application and enter into a grant agreement with Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for funding through the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program for the acquisition of the Birch Bay Community Park property in the amount of $615,884. $844. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, one other item from Finance was we proposed and passed a resolution showing our appreciation to the other agencies that came to our aid for mutual assistance for the crowd control for the recent visit up at Linden. I'm told by the clerk that because we only had 6 voting on it, we need to put it back to a vote to the full council. So the motion was to join with the executive to express our appreciation for the mutual aid we
Is this
received.
a resolution or a letter?
Well, this was the letter. It's got
A letter,
yeah.
okay.
But I assume we have to do it as a.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Ms. Brenner?
Well, I want it to be, including the sheriff's office. I mean, I thank all the jurisdictions, including our own. That's not what that said.
Works for me.
It said the other jurisdictions.
Okay, and I got the opportunity to thank a Bellingham police officer today personally that I just happened to see and thanked him for his work. Anyway.
It should be all jurisdictions, including the county.
They weren't there. There was only one guy.
No, I
I'm
don't,
just
but I
kidding.
mean, the motion should be for all of them.
Yes, I think Mr. Brown agreed.
Yep,
Yeah.
all jurisdictions.
All jurisdictions. Any further discussion? No. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. That's the end of finance, correct?
That is correct.
Next, we have executive appointments to boards, commissions, and committees, and we're being requested confirmation of the county executive's appointment of Ashton Bean Blossom to the Agricultural Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. On to introduction items. We have one, and we are working off the blue substitute version. The change made was just to memorialize and identify the City of Bellingham's resolution that passed this on to us. And so I would entertain a motion for introduction.
I move we accept it for introduction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, committee reports. Down to natural resources. Anything more?
There wasn't anything else.
Nothing more. Anything out of public works today?
Yeah, we had an interesting discussion on lead. Mostly it was in water, but also the other problems with lead in old paint and other things like that. And I got a lot of questions answered that I had. I think other people asked some really good questions too. And apparently, we are doing pretty well in Whatcom County. There doesn't seem to be this big, problem with lead in drinking water for sure. And it came up because somebody wrote us a letter, and I don't think maybe she's watching, I hope, because she was concerned about her neighborhood in Bellingham, about potential for lead in the drinking water there. I think we did answer a lot of good questions.
Okay. Nothing out of planning today. Other items of business? Nothing? Mr. Brown? Nope. Nothing?
Well, one quick thing, and Tyler, maybe you can look into this. We got a letter from a fellow who's actually written to us before, and he did write it to the executive too, regarding all the break-ins and stuff up in was it in the Glacier area, I think, and he's been trying to get a hold of people, and he keeps reporting this stuff to the sheriff, and many of these houses that are getting broken into are occupied at the time, so it's not like somebody's gone, which probably happens more frequently than we like to think, but these are with people in them, and it's kind of frightening. Thanks.
Anything, Mr. Donovan? Mr. Sadhu? Council member updates?
Nothing.
Atticus lost his first tooth.
Yay!
Oh, no.
I just got a text message.
How old is he now? Wait a minute.
Is he going to make out like a bandit tomorrow morning?
I don't know what the going rate is.
Boy, they grow up so fast. Jeez.
I had the privilege of riding with one of the EMS crews last Friday, and very impressed with the dedication and the work they did. And without going into details, there was one event where, had the person failed to call 911, if he'd waited 10 minutes later, I don't think he would have been here with us. And if they had been delayed by 10 minutes, I don't think he would have been here with us. And the thing that sort of shocked me a little bit was we go to these calls, we go to them, the sirens are going, the lights are going, and people are completely oblivious, and they're just blocking the traffic.
Really?
The ambulance is right up behind them, doing everything it possibly can, and the people are just moseying along, holding up the essential service. And so, take your headphones off when you're driving.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
I just have one quick thing. That Mr. Brown and I had the privilege of going to the briefing before the campaign event in Linden, and it was very interesting. It was very awesome to see how professional our law enforcement community is, and how fast they were able to marshal resources throughout our region to be able to get enough officers to work the event. Secret Service indicated that they needed between 500 and 700 officers, which was kind of mind-blowing. But we really everybody worked really hard, and they got all these resources out of Seattle and Skagit County, and they did just an excellent job, as has been reported. So my hat's off to that effort.
I would like to follow up on what you just said, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Because we have gotten emails and I got a phone call from who were extremely upset that we would spend county money on this. And we checked into it, and we were told by the county executive that it's not something we have a choice in. And because I don't like mixing campaigns with public tax money, and that really bothered me, of any campaign. I don't care who it's for. But apparently, we don't have any choice. So again, I salute, and I'm real pleased with the what our people did, the enforcement people. But I still think we should write a letter asking for the money back.
I agree with you. Mr. Donovan?
Nothing. I defer to Mr. Sadhu. He's got his hand on the microphone.
Yes, I do. Good observation. Well, I had the privilege to go to Yakima for 3 days. There is a new program coming called Global Gap. It is name of the company, private company. GAP means Good Agriculture Practices. So this is a industry-led effort. Government has nothing to do with it. So what is happening, all the for lack of word, it's all the Safeways of the world and all the large brokers or processors of food, and that includes meat, produce, any kind of food, anything which is edible. So this is Global Gap, means this has been in Europe for about 14, 15 years. This company is in Germany. So they have now made a company in Global Gap North America. But there are one more competing company which is also offering a similar program. So 2017, no farmer will be able to sell their produce, whatever they're producing, if they're not Global Gap certified. And the Global Gap certification has 9 binders to keep track of everything from any invoice, not only when did they irrigate their farm, what time they turned the pump on, and what time turned the pump off, and of course sprays and fertilizers. And now the most interesting thing was, if there is a coyote on your field and you have to be responsible for the droppings, a deer or any wildlife, farmer is responsible. And you cannot take your own dogs to your farm. And this is nothing coming from government. That's what people complain most of the time about, the over-regulation and everything. Now, look at this. This is industry-led, and to me, as my observation, after 3 days of all these experts and talking about, it's a passing down of the liability, because if there's a recall, mostly the larger Costco's of the world have to pay for it, and then they have to go claim, and if there's no chain of custody verifiable, they cannot go down the chain. So now, probably it may take 5, 7, 10 years, it takes time, but they're creating a chain of custody that all the liability will fall on guy with 10 acres. I mean, the large farmers with 400, 500 acres or 500 cows, or, a large processing plant is a different story. So it is coming down to that level of actually producer for tracing it back that this E. coli happened, what happened with Chipotle not too long ago. So all the Chipotles of the world owners are now pointing fingers down the line. It was really very eye-opening, but I learned a lot in 3 days. But I see it's very overwhelming for a farmer, a smaller farmer, even 40 acres or less.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask a question. So you say it's industry-driven. I assume you mean it's the supermarkets and and the restaurant chains and so forth.
Exactly. They are on the top of this food chain is the people who are the retailers, and they are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars as a fee to this being Global Gap, because they're certifying them, and then they're certifying the processing plants, the middle people, who actually take the meat and process the meat and package it, right? And they are also larger corporations. And then it comes down to where they get the cattle from, or the milk from, or the berries from, or the apples. Everything is included in that. And then it will fall down to the next step.
Ms. Brenner?
So what if somebody says, I'm not doing it?
Fine, you eat your all apples or yourself.
Well, maybe there are places that would take their apples.
Yeah, you want to take it? Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
if
just
you get
wash
sick-
it real good.
If you get sick, you
know what? I wash
No. I'm not talking about you person. I'm just talking about the society. This is where it is going.
That is creepy.
I mean, we used to go to the butcher and buy meat for ages. We never had any of these stamps or USDA meat inspectors. We never had those.
You're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. I grew up in India. I'm still here. If you go there, you would say, by God, condemn the whole country. Never mind one producer or something,
How big is their comp plan?
How big is their comp plan? Yes. So, I mean, this is something of the reality that is coming, and it was very big eye-opener to learn what is coming in the food industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know, I'm going, whoa.
Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
That's terrible.